Uncle and Auntie, we're here. Hi, everybody. Oh,
Hello.
nice to see you.
Hello.
Auntie.
Welcome.
Oh, lovely.
Welcome. Nice to see you.
Hi, Uncle.
Nice to see you. Welcome.
Nice to see you too.
Welcome.
Thanks.
What are you looking at?
I'm looking at some old photos with Northgate journey into PLC.
Wow, that's Pastor Wesley?
Yes,
It is Pastor Wesley.
Pastor Wesley had here?
Plenty here.
Plenty here.
Plenty.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So Auntie Pauline, tell us about the earlier years at Northgate.
Let us stay. We got a video.
You guys.
It's showtime!
The journey of Northgate started in February 1997 with the arrival of Angela and Wesley Boynes, who were appointed to lead the church. The community then was known as Northgate Family Church and located at Pineapple Place Main Street in Ocho Rios. God began to firmly establish the structures within the community, and this process led to the formation of a solid core of members.
Well, obviously I was the one who came from Trinidad. Angela, she was born in Kingston. I was enrolled at the Faith Revival Ministries Advanced School of Ministries, which was a sort of a Bible school which was established by the late Birchall Beard. And so I was there attending the classes, and one day he came down. They said that I met him on the stairs. He was coming down, I was coming up, and he said, "Young man, do you want to go to Jamaica?" I said, "Yes," not even knowing what I was saying, yes, too. And then after he asked me that question, then he told me about this school called Caribbean Christ for the Nations. And, he gotten a scholarship to give out to anybody who wanted it. So he was going to give it to me, and of course, when I went to him, I told my mother about it, and she just said, "What, we need to pray about this?" I said, "Well, you go ahead and pray and let me know what God says." And then, she released me, because she was my pastor at the time. Okay, and so I came across here in 1990, August 1990. That's where the journey started. My first time in Jamaica, and Christ for the Nation was a missionary-run 2-year Bible school program. And by December of 1990, they asked me to come on staff, so I was student staff, because they said, "Well, you're a bit more mature, so we wanted to be a student staff." So I was running the cafeteria for them, assisting in running the cafeteria. I was the assistant cafeteria manager. Still haven't learned to cook as yet, but I managed serve and manage the workers who were there. We had students from all over the world, and a lot of them got work assignments inside of the kitchen, the cafeteria. And that's where I learned a lot about dealing with people and managing human resources. Still, the experience still assists me today. This was in 1990. And then I became involved in the worship department, and I was the worship leader, the chief musician, worship leader. So, and the Lord did a lot of things during that time. The highlight for me at Christ for the Nations was when I met Angela. She was the manager or one of the managers of the business office. They used to call it the dean of money. So if you're owning the school fee and she was coming down the corridor, people used to dive through out of the bushes and hide. You know, so she used to drive the fear of God when when you were owing school fees. She used to drive the fear of God in the hearts of the students. And so she, first time she saw me, she really liked me a lot.
So you didn't friend her because you're old?
No, I wanted to know why this lady kept looking at me through the window every time I passed by, you know. And one day I asked her, why are you looking at me all the time? She said she's looking at a mango tree across and making sure nobody picked the green mangoes. When I looked, I saw no mangoes on the mango tree. And then I realized I was the mango. But she was one of my teachers in the school as well. She taught me, was it evangelism, I think?
Youth evangelism.
Youth evangelism, yes. And we became very good friends. I used to go to her house for dinner and so on.
I'm Claudine Sidiel. I started the Northgate journey in February 1997. One of the things I recall right now is Pastor Wesley at the time. He would call regularly, and I always felt special that, you know, I'm a pastor's pet because he calls and checks upon me and everything, just to realize that it was something that he was doing with all the members and so on. And when I found that out, I laughed, you know, thought I was a pastor's pet. But another thing that I remember, he always used to say, the word works. And we would imitate him, you know, when he's talking, the word works. Another fun moment was that all the time he used to play the keyboard. And when he was playing the keyboard, he would always be jumping around and he'd be up and jumping. And sometimes we were saying, oh Lord, please don't let anything happen. Please don't let anything burst out. Please, you know, he was just frisky. It was a wonderful time, a really good time in the journey. The journey of Northgate is a journey of faithfulness. It was a journey of obedience. Pastor Wesley obeyed the leading of the Lord throughout, and it without fear or favor. As we say in Jamaica, him no watch no face. He just wanted to be obedient to the Lord, and that is what I have learned, to always be obedient to the leading of the Holy Spirit. 1998 proved to be a significant year in the journey of the community. We moved to the Garden Center on Evelyn Street in Ocho Rios. This phase of the journey was a time when God further cemented the core of the community, and most significantly, it marked the year when Northgate broke away from the Philip Finn-led Word of Life Ministries, a charismatic prophetic movement, and made its entry into World Breakthrough Network, now Congress WBN.
Philip Finn was the person who indicated to us that there was a need down here for leadership. The group started about 8 or 9 months before we came to Ocho Rios. Alright, so we came down and I felt like the Lord wanted us down here. Okay, during that same time we got offers to be in other places in Jamaica and the US, different places. But I felt like the Lord wanted us here, so we came down here when I was about 6 months old. And so we packed up our few belongings and came down here. And the church was like a premature baby. Okay, that's the best way I can describe the group we met. And generally speaking, many folks wanted a preacher but not a leader. There were some influential business people in the group. And as the months went by and so on, we began to experience some resistance from some key folks. Okay, there was a strong, lawless, charismatic culture which we had to deal with. But in the midst of all of that, there were a lot of gems who we met, some of whom are still with us today. These were people who were just simply hungry for the Lord. And the presence of the Lord was there with us in all of the meetings. God came down. People got healed. A couple of persons who were dying with cancer got healed. The Lord went before us and provided leadership and backup. And key persons who are now core members started to come in the community. But we had to deal with some battles. At one time, I literally made a list of 14 persons and prayed them out of the community. 13 left in 1 year and 1 left the next year. And when those people got out of the way, the church began to move forward. And as I say, the rest is history. So that it was not always easy, but the Lord helped us.
Years ago when I came to Jamaica, I think somewhere in the 90s, either 1990, I came in 92, so possibly in 92 or 93, I met Pastor Wesley Boynes at Caribbean Christ for the Nation.
Well, it was very friendly, as it's not a family church. There's a lot of activities going on with the youths. We used to have a lot of street meetings, Lift Up Jesus, I remember that very clearly. We used to have them in the Ocheros, the clock and different areas in the Ocheros itself. And the whole thing about the word being taught, that was one of the things that really grabbed me. We always used to have this little private joke that talks about the word works because of the way Pastor always used to say it. And when we came under him, so that was what he was about. If it is not in the word, it doesn't work for him, and he gave that to us. So that was very significant. That was what Northgate was at the time.
Yeah, the evangelism outreach which Angela mentioned was a big wake-up call for me, because I remember one summer we were real intense and we were reaching out, and a lot of people came, but we were not ready for the people. That's when I realized I need to develop a core of people who would evangelize the others. They will have. We needed internal evangelism happening. So I had all of these people came in. They came in with all sort of problems. It almost killed me, because there's all sort of baby mother problem and husband problem and marriage problem and all sort of dysfunctionalities. The people came in with needs, but we had no internal structures. And as Angela said, there was also a group who didn't really have a heart for some of these people because of all this classism. So we had to deal with these issues. So that's when I backed off from all this evangelistic outreach, and I began to focus on building the core group. We didn't need to call it core group at the time, but that is what I was doing. I realized there was a need to build internal structures, to establish the culture of the community, to establish the values. Okay, because we had several instances of members who weren't living right. Okay, we had a strong youth ministry called Teen Jam, which was a big thing on a Friday evening, when a lot of the youths weren't really living pure, righteous lives. I realized we needed something more. There needed to be a structure that would help people to stay in order.
The journey of PLC, in terms of our transitioning, is one of obedience. I just see us as, a family who just constantly obeys God and just trusts Him, and then we just see God just cause transformation.
For me, I would describe it as one that where we measure on the focus of our values and principles that we conduct our lives, whether we are in a community setting or in our own sphere, on the job, wherever we go, and so that we stay as one. We operate by the same values and the same principles, which is right across the Congress and is biblically based.
I saw the need for us to be more than a family church. There had to be an emphasis on developing other areas. Okay, because the family church had a strong family feel, and nice and cozy, and we dealt with a lot of family issues, which was beneficial. But then we needed to go further, and we looked at the issue of presenting Jesus Christ to the whole man. That was a central theme. The whole man must be affected. Okay, and so we realized that there would need to be other emphases in the ministry, both inside and outside. We started to reach out to schools and did a lot of charity stuff. Okay, so we started the work of the foundation, the charity foundation, long before it was registered. I remember our first outreach was exchange primary and junior high. Okay, I met the principal. She's still the principal today. She and I came into Uchi's together. So we have that good bonding because of that. And she let us into the school, and that was the first outreach recipients of what we do today through the foundation. But there was this drive to minister to the other needs of a human being, not just their spiritual needs. And so the name change was impacted by the change of emphasis for a balanced lifestyle and to touch the needs of the people. I remember looking at scriptures where Jesus didn't only teach people about the kingdom. He fed them bread and fish and helped them to pay their taxes and stuff like that. So all of that was an influence in that change.
Those things did influence the name change from Family Church because we had felt that we were doing more than just ministering to the family. We have gone beyond that. I remember at that time when it was not yet ministries, we used to have 2 services because quite a lot of people came in, as you said before, from the outreaches. And the building was small, so we used to have 2 services in those days. I was out of church for a couple months, I think, when I was expecting the twins. And because of the physical health issues I had, I was out of church. And when I came back, I was amazed at how many new faces I saw during those days. New people came in, and it just amazed me.
It has really been a good experience. We can say that Northgate grew by leaps and bounds as Pastor Wesley gave himself completely to following the Lord and to just walk in obedience to what God was actually saying and doing. And we saw the process of development, the process of growth, transformation in the lives of people. There were a number of persons who would have exited the community, but despite all of that, Pastor Wesley stuck to the process, and God started a process of basically he dismantled some things and started a process of really building something new.
All I'll say is that Northgate represents where we grew up in a lot of ways. I mean, this is 20 years later, 3 children later. Our oldest child is now in university. All 3 children have a solid relationship with the Lord. They're engaged in their own personal processes. And Northgate provided the context for our development as a young family to hear. We thank God for the saints of Northgate, really lovers of God. They provided the relational and the spiritual context that has allowed Northgate to keep journeying and pleasing God's heart, that has allowed us as a community to arrive at today, which is PLC, Philadelphia Life Center.
2001 was another significant year in the journey of the Northgate community. In that year, our album entitled Let's Change, It's Worth It came into fruition. We opened our store, the Catalyst Bookstore, and we launched the Northgate Youth and Family Development Foundation, the NYFDF. This was a season of transition where we were introduced to another level of God's grace.
Well, initially meeting with Dr. Woodruff and coming into the awareness of what God was doing during those days. It was new, but it wasn't all that new to me. And the reason why I would say that is I got saved during the charismatic movement. I wasn't part of the whole Pentecostal church of God church, the religious structure as it were. And because I got saved in the charismatic movement, my first church was a parachurch, which was at the time Deeper Life Ministries. And so they didn't function the normal religious way that most churches were. So you could wear your pants to church, you could wear your jewelry to church, you could be comfortable, nobody demanded you cover your head, you know. And that was like liberating. And so those messages were fresh and new during the charismatic era. They were new, they were fresh, they were enlightening, they just lift you up and you weren't bogged down by this is so different. This was not what I learned at the church. I got church, it was all new. So in my estimation, I was used to embracing new things. For me it was new and it was exciting. Going to Christ for the Nations also. The general spiritual atmosphere at CCFNI was that of charismatic move. It was a charismatic feel that was there. And it was still different from my Deeper Life Ministry or Covenant Community Church. It was still different. So I see where over the years I moved from one spiritual location to a next spiritual location, all being different, but all contributing to my spiritual growth.
We had disconnected from our charismatic system for about 8-9 months. So we were just drifting, we didn't know where we were going. All I knew was what we left behind, I didn't want it anymore. So I couldn't tell people where we were going, we were just looking for something else. So I drove to Kingston, 2.5 hours, met the leader of the charismatic move that we were part of, had a 5-minute conversation, or less than 5 minutes. Hi, thanks, and bye. And drove back down to Oaches, and we were just floating around for 8 or 9 months until one weekend, Dr. came to Jamaica to conduct a conference. I think nobody came to the conference. And one of the team members called me and said, well, Dr. Woodruff is here. I and this person, we were good friends. And he called me and said, Dr. Woodruff is here. Would you like him to come down to your church? I said, who is Dr. Woodruff? He says, and he tried to explain. I said, well, once you recommend him, it's not a problem. And that was on the 11th of February 1990. It was a Sunday night upstairs in Gordon Center building. And he came, and that was the evening, the day when the apostolic grace landed with great force inside of my life and inside of the community. We were fully committed. And the journey has been excellent since then.
Okay, my name is Rohani, and this is all my family. Destiny, Joshua, and my lovely wife, Yvette. All right, for me, I've been here for the past roughly about 13 years, attending Northgate. But the most memorable time of my life at Northgate is when I came and realized that this community is family oriented, and I realized that there's good leaders we can look up to. So that was one of the things that attracted me at Northgate, the leadership and good marriages.
A significant time for me as well was when we had, what was it, the GPI stage 3, right? And it was a beautiful sight, seeing each person being able to hear what it is that God has in store for their lives and what it is that they are expected to do, and being here and seeing the growth and the development of each and every member, it's a beautiful thing. So I'll always treasure that.
Well, the most thing that stood out to me is that we need to work together, even in the situations. So we mustn't worry about, we must be kind to each other.
One thing I appreciate is just the whole fact of the family that I have here, my family and my Congress family as well, and just how supportive they are and how exciting and fun they are. So I really appreciate how they're there every step of the way to help me, and we have different teachers here that can help me as well in certain areas. So I just appreciate the context that I'm in. I don't know what I can do without Congress, because I don't want to even imagine what life would be without Congress. So that's it.
In 2019, David Kopp, affectionately called Papa Kopp, visited Northgate shortly after the sudden passing of Gurnus Shane Gibbs, and Northgate's stalwart and excellent servant. The timing of his visit demonstrated another level of God's grace and his immeasurable love for us. Papa Kopp's visit initiated a process which led to the change in our name from being Northgate Center for Global Impact to Philadelphia Life Center.
The name change process has been a strange process, totally unexpected. But to be quite honest, it started in 2018. Before I went to Trinidad, where we had a meeting with Dr. Woodruff and the Northgate school principals, before that, I began to sense that we had maxed out something. I couldn't put my finger on it. Okay, I couldn't identify it or articulate. But it's like this space that we were in, the spiritual space, I personally felt as if we had come to the end of it. But I wasn't too sure, what to do next and how to describe it and what steps to take. Right? We were journeying with the Congress, but our kingdom community had sort of reached somewhere. And what we had, the systems and structures which we had sort of reached. And I never shared it with anyone, including my wife. I just kept it to myself, but I was praying about it. So then we went down to Trinidad in August 2018. It was a global gathering of the Northgate school principals, and Dr. Woodruff was sharing in that eventful morning. He made a statement and said that there were a few moving parts in the Northgate system which he would like to see regularized. And then he said, Jamaica, Northgate, school or church? And then he went on. He didn't say anything after that. Jamaica, Northgate, school or church? And I was like, what? And he just proceeded on to other items on his agenda. So, but it put me in a tailspin at that point. So Papa Kopp, David Kopp, said he wanted to come down to Jamaica. I should give him 2 dates. That was like in February, early in the year.
Yeah.
So I gave him 2 days. He picked the date, which is later down in April. And the date he came to Jamaica, to our community, was so perfect. Because, we will have to be contemplating now the passing of Shane. And so I told him the possibility exists that by the time you come here, Shane might be going to be the Lord unless the Lord heals him. And so said, so done. When Papa Kopp came, Shane was not part of the meeting. He was going to be the Lord. So his presence really encouraged the community. He didn't have to do anything. He just brought a presence with him. Yeah. Okay, which settled on everybody in the community. He didn't bring any deep revelation or swing from the chandeliers or anything like that. He just came and was just David Kopp and brought his ancientness with him and his maturity and his love and his fatherliness. It flowed through the church like a healing balm. Yeah. And just calm the spirit of the saints. It was a beautiful trip. And And during one of his presentation, he got up, it was a Sunday morning, and he said that this community, the Lord gave a word for the community, and he said the Lord sees this community like Philadelphia. The Philadelphia church in the Bible. So you're going to look at the Philadelphia church, and right there, the whole name thing now began to bubble up inside of me, and I was listening very, with keen interest. I picked up. I accepted I'm going to change our name, but I wasn't sure change to what. Okay? Remember, with the leaders, with the secondary leaders, we were trained all sorts of different names, but nothing resonated in my spirit. So I just left it alone after a couple of interactions with our secondary leaders. I just left it alone. People made all sorts of suggestions. Just left it alone. Because if it's God, he has a name already. So when Papa Cup came and mentioned that, I said, wow. And I listened carefully to what he had to say, and then I began to look through the scriptures at how the Lord saw the church in Philadelphia, and I said, we want to be like that for real.
And I want to draw your attention to the last church that John saw. And that is the church at Philadelphia. So let's turn over. And it starts with verse number 7. Now remember the word replicate. I believe God is wanting this house, this body of believers, to become an example of what John saw in the church at Philadelphia. It was the only church that was not reprimanded of the 7. The only church. He only had blessing and encouragement and hope given to the church at Philadelphia. It was a special church.
That meeting, a lot of internal fine-tuning took place inside of me. And during that thing, I got even more clearer perception of what it means to be Philadelphia church. Okay, we had about 3 different versions with the word Philadelphia. So I started to send them to Dr. Woodruff. It came down to 2. And he chose what we currently have now, Philadelphia Life Center. He liked this one. But I think we had settled for one, and when Yvonne went to register it, somebody else had it. Okay, and then so we had to send back a couple more, and then he chose this one here, which was great for me. Because he said this name, the Philadelphia Life Center, is open for anything else the Lord wants to do in the future. Alright, so that's where we reached the point of the Philadelphia Life Center.
My name is Aya Gordon. From Northgate to PLC, it has been a very significant and inspiring. When I am with my family and friends in the Congress, it is like I know that I belong.
When I came here, Northgate felt like home. And I felt that this is a place where God wanted me to be, to develop and to grow and to become mature. And I believe, or I think that one of the most impactful part of our journey is that it is one that is filled with faith. I can recall that a lot of our initiatives that we have undertaken as a community has really started with little or no budget. But then all we have was just a word from God, and we obeyed.
Philadelphia Life Center. Together, we have journeyed and arrived at this new place in God.
A new era, a place of enhanced community and oneness, a place of family and life.
A place defined by a people resolutely desirous and committed to doing His will and facilitating
the final purposes of the Lord as one.
And now we're Philadelphia Life Center.
Yes, facilitating the final purposes of the Lord.